An honor, once bestowed amid cheering crowds and fairy tale dreams, is now on the verge of being publicly torn away. Nearly 40 years after it was given, counselors in York are preparing to vote on stripping Sarah Ferguson of a title that connects her to their historic English city. This isn't just about some ceremonial title. It's about public condemnation, a final, brutal judgment on a life lived in the shadow of scandal. This is the story of how the Duchess of York's past has finally caught up with her, and how one vote could permanently tarnish her legacy. It all hangs by a thread. A single motion, brought before the City of York Council, has the power to unravel 4 decades of history. The proposal is blunt: to withdraw the honorary Freeman of the City status from Sarah Ferguson, an honor she received back in 1987. A meeting has been scheduled for the evening of March 26th at the city's historic Guildhall, with this motion as its sole, devastating agenda item. The city that once welcomed her with open arms is now preparing to formally cast her out. The reason? A toxic association that has already destroyed her ex-husband's reputation and now threatens to consume what's left of hers. To really get the gravity of what's about to be taken away, you have to go back to 1986. The wedding of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson was a spectacle of 80s optimism and royal pageantry. Fergie, with her fiery red hair and larger-than-life personality, was seen as a breath of fresh air for the often stiff House of Windsor. The nation was captivated. After their wedding at Westminster Abbey, the Queen made them the Duke and Duchess of York, cementing their place at the heart of the monarchy. The next year, in 1987, the City of York decided to celebrate its new Duke and Duchess. They were awarded the Freedom of the City, a tradition steeped in prestige. This was no small token. It is the highest honor a city can bestow, a rare civic award that puts its recipients in a very exclusive club. Past honorees include giants of history and culture: the Duke of Wellington, the victor at Waterloo, Sir Winston Churchill, who led Britain through its darkest hour, and, more recently, the beloved actress Dame Judi Dench. For Andrew and Sarah, this was more than an honor. It was a symbolic wedding present from the city they now represented, a sign of the deep connection between the dukedom and the people of York. The ceremony was a moment of immense civic pride. It was a tangible expression of hope, a city embracing the couple they hoped would represent them with dignity for decades to come. The idea that this very honor would one day be revoked, first from him and now, potentially, from her, would have been completely unthinkable. Long before her name was tangled up in one of the darkest scandals of our time, Sarah Ferguson's public life was a roller coaster of controversy. Her fall from grace didn't happen overnight, but through a series of embarrassing blunders and financial missteps. After her separation from Prince Andrew in 1992, the same media that had been so charmed by her turned vicious. The infamous photographs of her having her toes kissed by her financial advisor, John Bryan, while still married to the Duke, shattered the royal fairy tale. It was a moment of deep personal humiliation that became a global punchline, sealing her public image as reckless and out of step with royal decorum. The years that followed were marked by a desperate, and often clumsy, scramble for cash. The Duchess launched numerous commercial ventures, from being a spokesperson for Weight Watchers to writing children's books. But these efforts were often overshadowed by reports of massive debts and an extravagant lifestyle her income couldn't support. This all led to another major scandal in 2010. A tabloid sting operation filmed her appearing to offer access to her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, who was a UK trade envoy at the time, in exchange for £500,000. The footage was damning. It showed a woman seemingly leveraging her royal connections for money, a cardinal sin in the monarchy's unwritten rulebook. The fallout was immediate. She issued a public apology, describing herself as being in the gutter and admitting her financial situation was dire. These incidents were embarrassing and damaged her reputation, but they were seen as personal flaws. What came next, however, would be on a totally different level. The name that ultimately threatens to sever all remaining public goodwill for Sarah Ferguson is Jeffrey Epstein. While her ex-husband Prince Andrew's deep and disturbing connection to the convicted sex offender has dominated headlines for years, Ferguson's own involvement has been a slowly unraveling story of catastrophic judgment. For a while, her connection was seen mainly as a financial one. In 2011, it was revealed that Epstein had given her £15,000 to help pay off a debt. Realizing how toxic this was, Ferguson moved to publicly distance herself. In a March 2011 interview, she expressed deep regret, calling it a gigantic error of judgment. She stated, "I abhor pedophilia and any sexual abuse of children. I will repay the money and have nothing ever to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again." It was a clear, forceful denial. But it wasn't the whole story. Years later, documents released by the U.S. Department of Justice exposed a devastating truth. Just weeks after publicly vowing to cut all ties, Sarah Ferguson sent a groveling email to Epstein. The email, sent in 2011, long after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor for prostitution, contained words that would come back to haunt her. She described the convicted sex offender as a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend to me and my family. She wrote, "I know you feel hellaciously let down by me, and I must humbly apologize to you and your heart for that." The revelation was a bombshell. It suggested her public apology was just a performance. Her spokesperson tried to do damage control, claiming the email was sent under duress after legal threats from Epstein, but for many, the damage was done. Further emails painted a more troubling picture, with Ferguson allegedly calling him the brother I have always wished for. This wasn't a simple financial blunder. It was a profound moral failure, and it's this failure that underpins the motion now before the York City Council. The decision came after Andrew's own catastrophic entanglement with Jeffrey Epstein led to a civil sex assault case brought against him. Though he settled out of court without admitting liability, his reputation was in ruins. The Queen stripped him of his military titles, and the city of York followed suit, deciding his association with Epstein was an unbearable stain on their name. During that 2022 meeting, counselors were clear. They needed to stand with victims of abuse and declared it inappropriate for Prince Andrew to keep any link to their city. The vote was swift and unanimous. This act set a powerful precedent. It showed that the freedom of the city is a conditional honor that can be withdrawn if a recipient's conduct brings the city into disrepute. Now, that same unforgiving spotlight is on Sarah Ferguson. For the counselors, the logic is chillingly simple. If the honor was taken from Andrew for his association with Epstein, how can it remain with someone who called that same man a supreme friend long after his crimes were known? Andrew's public disgrace paved the way for this moment, making his ex-wife's removal not just possible, but probable. The potential loss of her York honor is just the latest crisis for Sarah Ferguson. It's the climax of a catastrophic collapse of her public and professional life. The fallout from the Epstein email revelations has been swift and brutal. The most immediate blow came from the world of charity, the very sector she had used to rebuild her identity. For decades, Ferguson was a tireless fundraiser for causes, especially those involving children. But her continued friendship with Epstein made her position untenable. One by one, charities she had championed for years began to cut ties. The Teenage Cancer Trust, where she had been a patron for over 3 decades, dropped her. Julia's House, a children's hospice, announced it would be inappropriate for her to continue as a patron. They were joined by others, including Prevent Breast Cancer and the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, with at least 7 organizations publicly severing their relationship with her. Then, in February 2026, her own charity, Sarah's Trust, announced it would be closing for the foreseeable future. While the charity listed its achievements, the timing was undeniable, coming just days after new details about her Epstein connections emerged, making fundraising virtually impossible. Her identity, her businesses, her charitable work, all have crumbled under the weight of this toxic association. The vote in York feels like the final piece in this mosaic of public disgrace. This is a story that has ignited fierce debate. Is the council right to take this step? Or is this a public humiliation that goes too far? What do you think should happen? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on this story and other royal news, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. The motion before the York City Council is more than just a procedure. It's a moral statement. invoking Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972 to withdraw the honor. The city's leaders have already made their feelings known. Councillor Claire Douglas, the council's leader, previously called it deplorable that anyone with a title linked to York would maintain an association with Epstein after his crimes were known. For Sarah Ferguson, this vote represents the end of a long and complicated road. She has weathered countless storms, public ridicule, financial ruin, royal exile. She has always, somehow, managed to bounce back, reinventing herself time and again and earning the affectionate nickname Fergie. But this is different. This isn't about her own personal mistakes. It's about her association with unimaginable darkness. The vote in York is a public referendum on her character, a formal declaration that her actions have made her unworthy of the city's highest honor. If the councillors vote yes, it will be a final, painful severing of a tie that began with all the optimism of a royal wedding almost 40 years ago. It will be a definitive statement that some associations are so toxic they can never be forgiven.